Hello, VibeCode delicious people. Welcome to another episode in our streaming series where we are taking the Context Bonsai plugin and developing it so that it's useful to more people. Particularly in this part, we're making it so that the plugin doesn't need any changes to the core of OpenCode. The way we're doing that is going to be that we are attempting to have the plugin load OpenCode's own code and then apply modifications that are needed for it to operate and inject that back into it itself so it can operate. Particularly, this is needed for updating the messages where they're stored inside of OpenCode. So, in addition to that, we are using OpenCode on side projects. We're using the Context Bonsai plugin on side projects, particularly so that we can make sure that the instructions about how to use the tools that the plugin provides is sufficient for having the LLM spontaneously use the tools at appropriate points. So that will mean the LLM, as it's working on tasks, when it completes a task and it doesn't need all the specific details of what it did to complete the task, it can remove those out of its context and leave behind a summary that carries forward just the necessary information before it moves on to the next task. So let's see. Um, get the desktop here. And oh, yeah. So we first created a plan to make this wrapper that would try to take open code and find the correct module that needed to be modified and expose that to the plugin. And I think what has happened is it finds the correct module, but it made assumptions that there are certain methods in there that already exists in the modified version of OpenCode, but they don't exist in the unmodified version of the OpenCode, and that's the whole point of the story. So I'm just chatting with the LLM to make sure it understands this. What it just did before this was um, in a previous stream, we added observability to the plugin so that it would write extra debug logs. Then I had it use the plugin itself. It would launch OpenCode and it would try to exercise the plugin and trigger the issue, which is that the prune tool is not working. So it did that. It ran its experiments. It came back with a description of what it thinks is the problem, but it's just basically saying what we told it we wanted originally is not happening, which we already knew. It's trying to use this update message method, but that method doesn't exist. It exists in the um, modified version of OpenCode that we made specifically for the plugin, but it doesn't exist in the stock OpenCode. So I think probably in the original plan that was created, it made assumptions that it was in there. Now I think it's trying to fix it rather than answer my question, which is unfortunate. I don't like when it just goes and makes changes without being asked. Okay, you're right. I dug into the concrete instrumentation and here's the real answer. The wrapper slash injector path is not working at all, not just on systems install evidence. Both runtimes report every probe to target as undefined. That's interesting. So the plugin init client does not expose all of these things that we want exposed. The local custom OpenCode only succeeds because it provides that method in the tool context at execution time. Evidence. Local prune run used this, despite no injector selected. Sure. So to answer your direct questions, was the story written incorrectly? Partly, yes. The core assumption in that plan, that build runtime compat client init ctx.client can probe or wrap internal updater surfaces is wrong for real stock runtime objects. Interesting. Was it implemented incorrectly? It was implemented according to that assumption, so behavior matches the flawed assumption. The code probes only init client object paths. Those paths don't exist in the real plugin input. Was there a baked-in incorrect assumption from a modified OpenCode? Yes. The fallback that actually works in your local tree from tool registry wiring, not wrapper injection. That's not really what I was asking. That is intentional. If you want, I'll propose a corrected design that actually monkey patches from real loadable OpenCode internals with a complete proof plan before implementation. Okay, that sounds like a good path. Okay, and I want to make sure that it can still fall back and I can use the modified OpenCode with the plugin without things breaking, because I do want to keep using the OpenCode plugin as we go along. I mean, the Context Bonsai plugin as we go along. Okay, the fallback is intact and still the first priority on the right path. Okay, great. Okay. And I'm going to have it follow the steps in the plan and guidance document. I think it's underscore. Oh, I gave it the wrong path. Nope, that doesn't work. Okay, so this is likely going to spin for a little while. And this image to maze project had some changes. Let's see. Previously, we had an initial version that created a map that you could tell that there was the shape of the image sort of embedded into the maze, but it wasn't particularly distinguishable. It looked very faint, I guess. The impression of like the house or the sailboat image that we were trying to get the map to look like was very hard to notice. So I explored with the LLM other methods of doing that. It suggested several, and we chose the first one to implement, and it implemented it, but it created the maze in a way that looks like just a bunch of thin lines, and the thin lines are the paths that you go down. And I would like it to look like hallways and corridors where the sort of empty space is where you go down rather than going down the actual line. It would look like you're going down a corridor. So I went through a plan to have it design and implement that, and it has done that, and we're going to see this for the first time. Okay, it didn't do it correctly. It's still, the path is, these lines are the path rather than walls. So the maze goes like, starts here, ends here, and you follow this to try and find the path from one side to the other. It's interesting that it looks exactly the same because we already went through this loop once, and I explained to it that it didn't do it correctly. And then it really seemed to understand how that wasn't correct, and so it went off on another one to redo it. Maybe all it did was create the plan. Let me see. Nope, it actually implemented changes. Let's take a look at this plan. This image to maze project, I've been more or less vibe coding it and not paying close attention because the actual point of doing this is to watch the LLM and see if it uses the Context Bonsai plugin. But I am curious about what the heck happened. Why does the map look exactly the same? The goal, replace stylistic corridor inversion with true wall corridor geometry so the rendered mazes visually read as corridors bounded by thin walls, not centerline strokes, while keeping deterministic output and existing CLI shape. Okay, and it has the user model here. Corridor rendering can mean either thick centerlines or explicit wall boundaries. Resolved for this story, generate explicit wall boundaries from edge geometry and render walls as thin lines, and the corridor appears as a white space channel between the pairs. Sounds like it does understand what I want, it just didn't really do it. Let me take a closer look. Maybe I'm not zoomed in enough. Oops. Yeah, no, that's definitely not lines as the walls, it's lines as the path. Okay. Implementation task. Implement wall boundary geometry builder in that file using corridor rectangle boundaries for each edge and deterministic segment union / ordering. Replace visible centerline maze strokes with wall boundary output and ID equals wall lattice. Remove ID equals corridor strokes. Retarget render shadow calculations. Fine. Update render report. Okay. Update the render tests. Yep. Refresh required fixtures. Okay. Testing strategy, validation commands, validation loop results. This is a very high level plan. It just says implement it, basically. Implement wall boundary geometry builder. That's interesting. Let's go back over here. It looks like exactly the same kind of image as before. Is there a special option to choose the wall? I forgot what it called, wall boundary render or something. Just the wall version. And okay, here we go, it answered. There isn't a wall mode flag. The wall geometry renderer should now be the default render behavior, so if it still looks the same, that means either the visual delta is subtle for this specific maze theme, or the render challenge didn't actually produce the intended look despite the passing tests. I took a look at the plan. It basically just says implements, what is it? Did I copy it out? Implement. Inspect, what? You're right, that's a weak plan statement. Implement wall boundary geometry builder is, whoa, where is it? It's too vague and is exactly how we got a no-op visual change. Well, we don't know that. We want to see, we need to look at what changes actually happened. What it should have specified concretely was all of that stuff. Okay. Oops. Go away. What's going on? Go away. Okay. Okay, so our Context Bonsai LLM looks like it finished the plan, um, and it looks like it did it correctly because the last two tool calls were launching subagents to do the various reviews, and looks like they passed. Repairs stock OpenCode compatibility by adding a module-based internal injector path. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Keeps existing fallback intact. Remains tier 1 for your modified OpenCode workflow. Locks deterministic probe order. Defines concrete v1 internal, target matrix, and test validation commands. Key dependency plugin compat layer. Tests. Runtime reference for fallback behavior. Major risks and ambiguity decisions. Right. Some module specifiers might not resolve in all stock packaging variants. That's expected. That's going to be a little bit fragile. The scope is locked to OpenCode. Hold on. You should not be doing a version check. What exactly? I gotta stop talking while I'm typing. It's messing me up. Okay. Great. And we're going to take a look at the plan. Whoa. There's the path. Ah, ha, ha. Okay. Done. The plan wording is updated. Now explicitly says that no runtime version checks are introduced. Great. Let's take a look. Repair the runtime compatibility wrapper so Context Bonsai Prune, Context Bonsai Retrieve can perform message updates on the stock OpenCode installs by resolving real internal module targets while preserving the existing native ctx.update message fallback for modified OpenCode builds. At initial read, that sounds like it's making assumptions again that from the normal plugin place, it can probe OpenCode, but it can't, which is why the whole thing was based around a wrapper. The story is validated against currently reproducible runtime pairs, stock installed observed in repo, modified local dist used for fallback verification. Implementation remains compatibility driven, not version gated. Yeah, that's what we talked about. Okay, user model. I'm not going to bother looking at that this time. Ambiguities from the user model. Internal module layouts may vary by version. Plan resolves this by defining ordered internal module candidate probes and deterministic selection. Sure. Some stock versions may still expose no safe writable internals. Plan keeps explicit unsupported runtime behavior in that case. I think that's okay. Okay, so it has a table of methods that it can look for to find out if it can inject that method. Compat construction and injector selection lifecycle, update path priority, Compat initialized once from plugin init input, existing injector diagnostics and compatibility matrix tests. Okay, so yeah, I don't think this plan is actually going to work. It looks like what it's doing is building a table of candidate methods that it wants to inject. Um, can I change thinking? Oh, that's not what I wanted. Reasoning? No. I want to change this from low to high, but I'm not sure how to do that in OpenCode. The better approach is to patch one stable choke point where OpenCode builds the plugin tool context so ctx.update message exists again for this plugin. And source, that's here in your modified tree, so I should revise the plan to prefer context injection patching and restore ctx.update message at plugin tool execution boundary. Use updater method probing only as backing implementation detail behind that single context contract. Hmm. Um, oops. Well, yeah, let me just ask that. Load OpenCode's internal tool/registry module at plugin init. Via dynamic import require probing. Okay, that might work. Locate the function that builds the plugin tool executors. Monkey patch that function once. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I like that. Okay, so it explicitly put that mechanism in the plan, which is good. But now this needs to be validated, so I'm having it run through the validation loop again. So it's doing that now. In the meantime, what's up with our image to maze thing? Okay. Something was heavily rewritten. It added segments, canonicalization logic, and wall boundary generation from per edge corridor rectangles. Removed the rendering of corridor strokes group entirely, made wall lattice the primary visible maze geometry. Changed report widths to wall only and histogram to a single bucket. Okay. And it's guessing why it looks basically the same, but I don't think these are good guesses. Um, let's try generating another maze. Make sure you use the pure house tangram image to start. Um, which file is that? I'm going to take a look at the exact file it's using to feed into the program. Okay, that looks like the right place. Come on. Yeah, looks good. Okay. Um, and I'm going to watch the exact commands it's using, just make sure that it uses that path as the source. Okay, it is right here. And it's using the new method that we've created. And this is where the output is going to go for the JSON file, but then it's going to need to convert that JSON into the image. Oh man, OpenCode scrolling really drives me freaking nuts. Okay, output maze, theme ink, out. Ah, stop scrolling. Oh my gosh, where are we here? Oh, it's creating an SVG first, and then I think we'll convert that to something. Okay. Oh, that's rough. Um, but it is, I guess, finally walls and corridors, but it looks really, really bad. Uh, at a distance, it just looks like a bunch of blurry lines. Um, and it's not really, uh, it's not really maze style. It's taking the maze path and just outlining it, which I kind of is that's kind of what I thought it might do. I guess if we filled the empty space with a solid black color and we just make the stroke widths thicker, that might look more like hallways. Hmm. If we did that, it would kind of look inverted, where if the house is the black part and the empty space is the white part, having the if we fill the empty space with black, then it's sort going to sort of invert what we see as the image. Okay, I'm just going to revert. Now, something we could do is try and restrict the paths to be contained just within areas that are not white so that it doesn't have all of this noise on the outside of the map. I think I like that idea. Um, in fact, like the density should kind of match the uh, grayscale value of the image, if that's possible with this method. Let's chat with the LLM to see. Okay. Um, oh, there's another change I wanted to make too. Oh dang, I don't have it open. I think this one. So I think I want the start and end points to be on the actual image itself, on the house. Um, I should say not on the image. The whole thing is an image, but on a uh, non-white pixel. Whatever the most bottomest, most leftist pixel and the most toppest, most right pixel that are not white. Okay, so it says that this method already does this. The density by grayscale. I don't want the render time density look. At least not yet. Okay. So now I'm asking it if we can tune it so that the density is 0 or no pads whatsoever on the white regions. It will be interesting when we get to a point of using an image with disconnected segments. I wonder what will happen then. For generation time only, you can define hard gate sampling by intensity. Define foreground mask from grayscale. Then in masked out cells, forbid point placement entirely. Yep. Build Poisson samples only in allowed cells, then MST only over those points. Result, white regions get 0 nodes edges. Caveat, if threshold is too strict, components can disconnect or become tiny islands. We'd need a deterministic fallback. Lower threshold slightly or keep largest connected component. I think that's fine. Uh, so now I'm asking it if we can change it so that the start and end are actually on non-white pixels. Create a plan for these changes by following LLM conductor slash planning guidance. That's off to the races. Let's see what's happening on the Context Bonsai side. It reran the validation loop after the injection mechanism updates, and then a final pass. Okay, and it did have to make some updates. But it doesn't look like it had to make updates to that mechanism description that it added. Injected context updater must set non-enumerable marker with injector and source metadata for diagnostic classification. Okay. Great. Now, or just, well, tell me if you remember how to orchestrate. Let's make sure it's going to do this correctly. If okay, it will first read that file and follow it exactly. You can find that file also in lm conductor slash orchestrator agent .md. So I'm telling it to use the one in the current directory so that it doesn't keep asking permissions because it's reading something outside of the directory. Okay. So I'm asking it to read that and then tell me the next steps because I had a bit of an issue yesterday where it went pretty off the rails even though it read this file. Okay, that looks good. So yesterday, I did the normal thing I do of just telling it to orchestrate it, which usually means it reads that file and then follows the instructions in the file, which means it launches a developer subagent and gives it the plan and whatever other information it needs to implement. And then the developer agent finishes and it then launches a reviewer and then a judge, and it goes through a loop until there's no issues remaining, or until it goes through the loop too many times and has to stop. And instead of doing that yesterday, it launched a subagent and told the subagent that it's the orchestrator, and the subagent didn't do the right stuff. It just kind of went completely off the rails, which was interesting, and the first time I've seen it happen with this particular system. Okay, so that's running. Image to maze is still running. So now we're going to take a look at what I created yesterday. For some reason, the live stream stopped immediately after it started, and it went for 5 seconds. So yesterday's progress didn't get captured, but we did create a tool, bun run report sessions. This tool lets us see for every OpenCode session how many Context Bonsai calls ran. So here's what it looks like. Each line here is one of the OpenCode sessions, starting with the session ID, the title of that session, how many Bonsai tool calls it ran, how many subagents it had, and how many Bonsai calls in subagents happened, and then when the session was last updated. So that lets us monitor these side projects to see whether they're actually using the Context Bonsai plugin without trying to scroll through and find all of the tool calls. And I think, oh yeah, we also can make it so that we give it a session ID. Let's find one with actual tool calls. This one has a 9, so it looks good. Give it a session ID and it'll give us more information about it. Oh, that didn't work. Let's see, how did I do it previously? Oh, maybe that's... Oh, it's not that. It's I also have to add context, some number of lines. Nope. Okay, let me ask the LLM how it goes. Not there. This one. Oh, session, not session ID. Okay, try again. There we go. So I can give it a session ID and how many lines of context I want around the tool call, and then it will give me a transcript of the tool call and some number of messages before and after. That way I can see what it was doing when it made the tool call, and I can also see the reason and the summary that was provided to the tool call. So here we see it using Context Bonsai prune, and the reason is that the dolphin question is no longer needed. It did not provide any summary during this tool call. That is something that I found interesting. I thought maybe the tool was doing it incorrectly, but actually the LLM is using the tool without providing a summary. And I think we will want to update the plugin so that the summary is required. The reason isn't really required, but the summary is required because that is how the LLM can carry forward information, um, and sort of use important pieces later on as it's going through its work. And it also provides clues to the LLM about what is in that summary so that it can read the summary and figure out, oh, um, this piece of information I need might be in that original message, so I should retrieve the original message and look more carefully. This used Context Bonsai Prune a bunch during this session. This I can tell by the session title. It says something about dolphins. This is the um, the testing loop that the LLM is doing. So I have the LLM test the plugin by launching OpenCode and doing various scripts, and it very frequently tends to use these animal scripts. So that's why when we listed the sessions, there's a whole bunch of these. Oops. Talking about animals: cat fact, octopus fact, dolphin fact, bird fact, dog fact, fish discussion. So these are all the LLM doing tests on this plugin itself. Okay, so what I want to do is find the session that is this image to maze session. So if I copy this, that should be the title. And then search for it. There it is. That's the session ID. And now I can do this. Oops. Okay. So this is one where, let's see. Oh, yeah, the other thing this does is it tells me how many um, tool calls it did, or it tells me like which one it's talking about here. So this separates each tool call results. So this is tool call 9 out of 9. And this is the context for that 9 out of 9th tool call. And we can see Context Bonsai prune here with no reason, but with a good summary. Archived to the failed orchestration attempt segment where execution drifted into aborted subagent calls. Followed by a discussion clarifying the mismatch between the intended dev review judge orchestration and actual behavior. That's what I was talking about, where it went completely off the rails. The outcome: agreement to stop tool call and focus on process alignment before any further execution. And I did specifically ask it to prune away the times when it did it incorrectly, because what happened was what I call context poisoning, where It went off the rails. It did the wrong thing. Um, I pointed out that it did the wrong thing, and it said, "You're absolutely right. I did these things instead of doing the things that it's supposed to do." So it understood what it's supposed to do for as the orchestrator. How the orchestrator actually works. And so when it stated that, I thought, okay, great, I'll just have it restart it now. And I told it to orchestrate the plan, and it did the exact same behavior again. It mess up again. So this is what I call context poisoning, where if there is something in the context that is incorrect or bad, it can cause the same mistake to happen later on in the context, even if there's a correction, even if it seems like it understands it. The LLMs tend to repeat patterns. So if there's a pattern of something happening once, it's more likely to repeat that pattern. And this is one of the things Context Bonsai can help with, because you can remove the bad pattern out of the LLM, out of the context, so it's no longer there. And that way you can continue forward without it trying to repeat the bad behavior. So I actually did that yesterday, and it's too bad it didn't get caught on stream, but it might happen again. It's somewhat rare that that happens now, just because I sort of develop behaviors to try and avoid that, but it does still slip in occasionally. So I'm excited to see if it will happen again and see if we can correct the issue by pruning context away. This continues to go. Um, the most recent time that it ran Context Bonsai Prune was when I explicitly asked it, which is unfortunate. We've done a few things in that LLM session since then, and I would think that there is probably plenty that it can prune away, but it's not doing that yet. Oh, okay. Image to maze completed. Let's see. Oh, it completed creating the plan. Okay. Orchestrate this plan. It's currently at 48% context utilization, which is kind of high. I'm really hoping that the next time it sees a reminder about pruning, that it takes the hint and actually does that. Because we've moved through several phases now, and it does not need all of the details of these phases in order to complete the orchestration work. So the reminders come every 5 messages, and um, they're not permanent. They're sort of transient. So the way uh, LLM agents work is the LLM sees the entire conversation, and it predicts a plausible next message to add to the conversation. So it's continuously producing output that expects is plausible given the context of the existing conversation. But the LLM itself doesn't have the entire conversation. We have to send it the entire conversation every time. So we're sending it this whole conversation and say, please continue. And then it comes back and we add its message to the end of the conversation. And then we add whatever we do. We send a message to it. We add that to the end of the conversation and then send the bigger conversation to the LLM. And then it continues from there. So the system reminders just tack on an extra piece of conversation at the end of that when it sends it, but it doesn't send it subsequently. So on the next round, that reminder is going to be pulled out as if it was never sent, and the conversation is just going to look like it flowed normally without all of these interruptions of reminders happening. So the LLM only has the opportunity to act on that reminder 1 out of every 5 messages. That's how frequently we're inserting it here. And if it continues not to prune enough, we can increase that reminder, or we can modify the reminders itself so that they're a little bit more insistent of now's the time to prune. because by the time the next message happens, that reminder is going to be gone again. Or we could even sort of change it so that the frequency of how often that pruning reminder shows up changes depending on how full the context is. If the context is under 30% full, only one every 5 messages, perfectly fine. Once it gets up to 50% full, maybe start sending the reminder on every single message. That's a possibility. Okay, so this is continuing. This is going to take a while. Let's see how the plugin guy is going. That's also continuing, and it's going to take a while. I think I might end the live stream here, because what I would do next if I wanted to continue the live stream is start another project. Or, we've been running several side projects. I'd pick up one of the ones that we were already working on. Actually, there is a project that's ready for us to do some tests. Let's go ahead and check that out. So that would be the project where we're working on the Pi coding agent, and we're adding Vim modal editing to it. Okay, so let's make this an appropriate size. And let's just launch Pi and see how this is. So one of the things we did was add the ability to have, I don't remember which was already supported. It's like number and then a word motion, but there's also a way in Vim where you can do a number in the middle of a word motion. So only one of them was originally supported, and I asked it to add the other one. So let's try. Or, oh, it was actually something like DW, 2DW or D2W. Let's try that. 2DW. Oh, that doesn't look right. So W is going forward, B is going backwards, and it's doing it the right way. 2W does the right thing. D2W does the right thing. 2D, 2DW. Oh, that did the right thing. I bet I typed 22 instead of 2. Okay, so 4DW. Yeah, that looks good. Undo is not working, and that is one of the things I asked it to do. So if I DW and then undo, undo is not working. The other thing I asked it to do was to change the cursor style. So right now it is the block cursor style, which is good for normal mode, but in insert mode, it should be the bar cursor style. So that's not working. I wonder if I need to actually build it. Let's go chat with, oops. Let's go chat with the LLM. I was using Kiro for this, I think. Oh, I need to resume. Oh, not resume. Oh, it only created the implementation plans. Okay. Copy that path, quit, and start OpenCode dev. Okay. There are some unimplemented plans in that. Identify which plans those are. Okay. Orchestrate those plans. Let's see if it does the right thing here. Allow always, confirm. I'm going to tell it, well, let's make sure. Yeah. Okay, and I'm hoping when it launches subagents, it points the subagents to the local LLM conductor files, so it doesn't have to continuously ask for permission. Um, it was wanting me to tell it whether to implement one or all of them, and I haven't done that yet, but it's going to go ahead and do something. Okay, so it has launched a subagent, and it tells the subagent it's a developer. So it's doing the right thing, and it's doing the undo command. Great, great. Okay, so switch back to the parent, and we can, let's put here the little thing that tells you what project this is. Okay. And we can go take a look at this session with our tool that tells us how many times Context Bonsai was used. That doesn't show up yet. That's interesting. Let's just have it list the sessions. Just look at the top 5. Oh. Oh. There it is, unimplemented. What did I... Why doesn't the grep work? Oh, it's working now. Okay. So it has 2 subagents, and each of those subagents used a context bonsai call. That's interesting. And I think then I want to check that out. Let's give it 5 lines of context. This is not doing what I expect, because I think I have to do something like include subagents. Oh yeah, that worked. Okay. So 2 tool calls. Lots of bash tool calls. Here we go. Context Bonsai prune with no reason and no summary. And then again, so this first one is when it turns on the message IDs, and then the second one is when it actually does the prune. And the summary was loaded all required story and project documents, inspected Vim undo implementation and tests, verify story 7 behavior is already present in the code base, validation commands confirmed Vim editor tests pass, and repository checks are clean with no code changes needed. So I think this probably did something very bad, which is it probably pruned away the context it actually needed, because basically all it's done so far is read the implementation plan and the document that tells it how to do development, the developer document. And if it pruned that away, now it doesn't have like the specifics of how it's supposed to behave or what it's supposed to do. Hmm. I think I might want to update this tool so that it shows us the other arguments. I want to know from which message to which message, or actually, I want to be able to give it the hit number. So this is hit 1. I'll want to give it the hit number and have it tell me the entire pruned message range. Here's the second one. Same thing. So this other subagent also decided to prune after it loaded all the required historian projects, inspected vim undo implementation tests. That's interesting. I wonder if this is actually the same thing. This assistant message is, well, let's look at this. The message ID is 0Z, or no, OZ7. Up here it was OZ7. Oh, it's the same. So there's really only one. This is miscounting then. So let me feed that into the tool. I mean, into the LLM. Oh, I know what's happening. There were two tool calls. Um, they're just within the same. Because I'm spitting out extra context, we see both of them. So one of them is this Context Bonsai prune with no arguments that turns on message IDs. And the other one is this one with the arguments. Okay, so that makes sense. I do still want the tool updated so that I can see the pruned context. Okay. So with this change to the tool, I'll be able to see exactly what it decided to prune. If this decided to prune away the actual document, the developer agent.md document that tells it how to do stuff, or if it pruned away the implementation plan, then we're going to need extra hints to the LLM to tell it how to do pruning better, to tell it how to make better decisions. That's an interesting one. Okay. And it shouldn't be, I'm not going to tailor it to those files and those plans, but the LLM needs to clearly understand that what it prunes away, it's going to like unlearn. And the only thing it's going to carry forward is what it puts in the summary. Okay, how are our other projects going? The Context Bonsai monkey patching thing finished? Okay, yep. So it's offering to run the end-to-end test against stock OpenCode. So good, do that. And this context is at 31%. I don't remember which one we looked at that was high. Oh, it was image to maze that was high. So this one's at 31%. subagents made 2 bonsai tool calls, and the main agent so far has made 16 context bonsai tool calls. Interesting. Ah, this thing already updated our tool so that we can see what was pruned. Let's see if it works. So it was this one and call number 2. Nifty. Well, maybe not nifty. I'm not sure that this is really showing what I'm looking for. So some tool reads, some reads. I need to see the path that it pruned away. Yeah, it's pruned away the files that it read, it looks like. Um, so reconciling conflicting developer instructions. Interesting that there were conflicting instructions. I would like to ask it about that sometime. Preparing to analyze undo related files. Okay. Reading full files before modifying. Assessing undo feature status. Verifying presence and results. Checking existing story 7 commits. All of this information it is gonna need. Like it's there's reasons it's looking at this. Okay. Yeah, I think we're gonna need extra guidance in the plugin to help the LLM understand what what happens when information is pruned. Hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, I do want to see the arguments to these tool calls. So let's make this guy show us the arguments. Um, okay, how's our Context Bonsai guy going? Still implementing stuff. Or still running E2E tests. And image to maze says it's finished. Um, let's see. Create a maze out of the house sample. Okay, here we go. Wow, now that's looking much better. And also it followed the instructions of where to put the start and end. So there's the end, here's the start. Ooh. Cool. Yeah, that looks good. Are there completely disconnected paths though? How do I get over here? Oh wow, yeah, you can get there from there. Cool. I like that. I like it a lot. Um, and now what if, yeah. So what if now we fill in the white with, what if we sort of invert this? Um, okay, yeah, let's see. Um, I'd like to use the original image as a background and make the maze be white paths. Okay. So I think it's going to use image magic to do this stuff. Oh no, it's using some JavaScript. Okay, let's see what this looks like. Haha, there we go. That's pretty nifty. So that pretty much does what I want. Let's just try the sailboat. Actually, I want to make a wrapper that just does all of those steps. Um, or really, I want to augment the original tool with an option. Okay, it created a plan, and it claims it followed the planning guidance, but it didn't. Including mandatory subagent validation loop. No, it really didn't. I should not have summarized it in a way that reduced trust. I can paste the exact validation task IDs. Okay, what are those task IDs? I'm wondering if it's going to give me session IDs, and then I can literally go use my tool to see what happened in that session. Um, oh, it's over here. Okay, well, it didn't use Context Bonsai tools, so I can't quite use this, but what I can do is subagent session. Okay, let's see. Recheck story Poisson mask and extreme endpoints.md for unresolved high impact ambiguity. Yeah, that's the previous iteration, not the current iteration. Switch back over here. Okay. You're listing previous validations. None of these are after you made the recent. Let me see. Make sure here, just read, finalizing plan creation, done, created the plan. It didn't even, oh, it didn't actually make any changes at all. Hold on. Its context is 51%. It shouldn't be performing horribly at this point. Oh, I bet it misunderstood what I wanted. Um, okay. It thinks I'm still talking about all of the other things that it already did. No, no, because it implemented that. It shouldn't be confused. It was created and never. Okay, guy. Oh my god, dude. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's going to be doing its stuff. Now, the Context Bonsai plugin thing failed. If, let's see. Oh, right, it was running the E2E tests, and the E2E tests have failed. The approved fixes preserved modified OpenCode behavior good, but they did not yet unlock stock runtime prune retrieve writes, still blocked by missing writable injection surface at runtime. Yeah, I kind of thought you were going to still hit that problem. Oh. Wait, so did it not finish the whole story? Okay. Says yes, and then practically yes. The review judge loop approved the implemented changes, but the final E2E shows the key outcome is still not met, so there is at least one critical acceptance item still open. Um, oh, actually, let's encode the E2 instructions in the plan. Um, and I suspect this is not the best path, just putting the validation into the plan and letting the developer spin forever. I think um, I will need a different process to figure out how to get the code injected into the plugin properly. Um, inspect the changes and see if it looks like the dev made a proper effort to implement the plan, or if anything significant is missing. I suppose I suspect that there's nothing missing, that whatever is in the plan the developer implemented, because otherwise the reviewer would have caught that. Now, it is possible that the reviewer caught it and the judge said that's out of scope. You don't bother fixing that part, but I would be surprised. After inspecting the actual change, I'd say that... Okay, let's get that back. The dev made a real effort, but the implementation is still missing a critical practical piece which explains failure on stock runtime. What looks good, what they're missing. The module patch targets are still effectively guesses and validated mainly with mocked resolve internal, not real stock internals. There's no proven runtime discovery step that locks these into real loadable paths in stock installs. So tests pass, but E2E still shows stock goes to unsupported. Right. Figure out, well, or butter. Let's see. What can we do to prevent the guessing game? And that definitely means the plan was underspecified. You didn't do proper research when you wrote the plan and made assumptions that what you wrote is sufficient. Okay. Oh. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, it thinks it learned a lesson just now. Sure, you can write to your lessons file. It's way too specific. Um, so some of this I like, but discovery gate before plan approval. No compatibility plan is ready until we produce a discovery artifact with actual loadable module specifiers and export paths from the target runtimes. How will you make sure that the artifact is correct? The artifact would be self-validating with a strict checklist. Executable proof, not pros. Each discovered target entry must include a specifier, an export path, exact probe command script, observed results, raw output snippet. Okay. That sounds like an interesting way to go. Yes, do that. Okay, and I think it's probably a good time to end the live stream. Oh, it looks like our image to maze guy might have done what we asked finally. Oh, it created a plan. Yep. And this time it did run the sub agents. So orchestrate that. I think that's going to finish rather quickly, and we'll be able to see the final image produced just using the tool instead of all these later on steps that we kept having to do over and over. And Context Bonsai said it created this discovery artifact spec. Okay, orchestrate it. Okay. Okay, yeah, it's a good time to end. We'll continue basically the same stuff on tomorrow's live stream. We're going to continue doing the side projects and observing the ways the LLM is using the tool call. But I do want to start digging into the tool instructions and figuring out a way to help the LLM not prune away context that it's actually going to need to use. So that will be for tomorrow. Thanks for joining me.